Hey again, it's me, Chris, that guy who does stuff on this channel. How's it going? So, I got another deck here for you. This is my Wizardess of Burn, built around Wizardess of Oz. I made this deck mostly because when I was opening my my boosters for this expansion, my system is I just do my dailies every day, which is now like maybe an hour, hour and a half of the game, sometimes less, sometimes more. Sometimes I skip, sometimes I don't. And I just do that until an expansion comes out, and every drop of gold I earned goes into the expansion. So I usually get to open 60, 70 booster packs. It's a pretty decent amount. And it keeps you relevant. And during that, I ended up opening 2 Wizardess of Oz, so I figured might as well craft a third and build a deck around it. And here we go. It's pretty much a burn deck, as the name implies. We do have a Professor of Taboos in here for a little minion creation, little engine. Since he pumps out zombies and destroys guys, he's a pretty good removal, as well as board presence. Master Mage here is a nice big board clear, he's good. And of course, because you are playing this game post-Wonderland Dreams, Mutagenic Bolt, because Spawn of the Abyss is a goddamn nightmare, and you gotta get rid of it somehow. So this will transform all enemies, doesn't matter if they're hidden, into flame rats. Of course it won't work on Aegis, because that card is the worst. Got Magic Illusionist here, who when he dies, comes right back if you have an Earth Rite on the floor, so a nice sticky minion, and you gotta love sticky minions. The general idea with this deck is you just want to plink away at your opponent's face using Demonic Strikes, using Levi's 3 damage, 1 cost spell. Any minions on the table should be hitting. Halo Golem here will deal 3 damage if you have an Earth Rune on the table. And the big combo of the deck is trying to keep your hand low, and then playing Wizardess, turn 7 or 8, she'll draw you back up to 5 cards, so the less cards you have in hand, the more value you're going to get out of this. And any spells she draws that don't have spell boost will be reduced down to 1. So if you play her when you have no cards in hand, you're going to draw 5 cards, and if you're really lucky, you're going to get a bunch of spells. So Demonic Strikes go from 4 to 1, Mutagenic Bolt will cost 1, Dance of Death will cost 1, and allows for a big damage push. Downside is, if she dies, at the start of your next turn, all spells in your hand are going to go away. So if you happen to draw a spell after she dies, you will lose that spell. But normally you're playing this, so you're in control. You're going to make sure you don't waste those spells. We got Mage of Nightfall here, who, if you play it when you have an Earth Rite on the table, is going to get a +1/+1 in ambush. So that's a helpful way to store damage for the next turn. And of course, Dwarf Alchemist here is going to create an Earth Essence for us, which is real good. Make sure we don't have to worry about being able to proc all of our various Earth Rites. And if you evolve it, you'll draw a card that uses them. So, it doesn't have the traditional +2/+2 of other evolves, it only gets a +1/+1, but we're really using it for the tutelage. We're trying to tutor ourselves an Earth Rite card. And that's pretty much it. Specific Earth Rites we have, this will generate a Scrap Golem, which is a 0/2 ward. Witch's Cauldron, when it gets used, draws a card. Gingerbread House deals 2 damage, heals you. And of course, Red Hot Ritual deals 2 damage. And that's pretty much every card in the deck. And of course, Goblin Mage, who I'm starting to think is in every one of my decks, because it's just such a good card. It's a 3-cost 2/2 body, but it always pulls a 2 play point minion into your hand. And you may notice our 2 play points here are very useful. Time-Worn Mage, the most useful. Magic Illusionist, super sticky. And Dwarf Alchemist lets us get the things that we need for this engine to purr. So yeah, let's get started. Let's see some of these games. Alright, let's jump right into the first matchup here. If I remember correctly, it's going to be against, Dragoncraft. Dragoncraft can be somewhat tricky sometimes for this matchup. Their high-value cards and their ramp can outpace the burn we're trying to apply to their face. And if we're trying to play it as a control deck, it can be It can be very high pressure as they dump things on the board that you can't deal with, but I think we're going to be alright. So they're opening up a Dragon's Nest. It's just going to sit there until they're in overflow, which happens when they have 7 or more play points. Ooh, double Dragon's Nest. So basically when they hit turn 7, they're going to heal for 4 and draw 2 cards. It's an investment into the future, and I'm not playing any removal for amulets. So I got no choice but to just let them sit there. But in the meantime, I could plink away at their face, and I could use my Red Hot Rituals and other smaller minion removal to take care of any small-time threats on the board. Of course, getting rid of that has a downside. When that thing dies, it does ramp them up another play point. As you can see, they're already 5 play points, and I'm merely on 4. Well, really they're on 6 and I'm on 4, because they went first. But we're just gonna dump a bunch of bodies on the board, specifically sticky ones, like our Magic Illusionist here. And we got a Dwarf Alchemist that we can evolve later on and tutor a nice little Earth Rite card into our hand. So they played... well, it's gone now. Dance of Death took care of that, but basically it ramps and heals them. And I didn't want to have it sitting around on the table. I'm probably going to regret having used Dance of Death as early as I did, especially when they still have both of their evolve points. But not this turn. And Dragon Oracle, they're just continuing the ramp game. They're almost up to 10. And 10 is a scary place when you're against Dragoncraft. They have a lot of 10 play point followers that are devastating. Large minions with Storm that go straight to face. Obviously, if they're running a Bahamut, that's going to be a problem. But we're alright for now. We got Professor Taboos clearing things out and generating zombies, which is always helpful. Israfil, see? Had I kept Dance of Death, I'd be a lot happier right now, because they're going to evolve Israfil, and they're going to do a lot of damage to everything hanging out here. So Israfil, when it attacks, does 2 damage to all enemies, and then it hits. So I got a 10-7 to worry about here. But Master Mage does make this a lot easier to deal with, and we'll just use our Dwarf Alchemist to do some damage to face, and our Magic Illusionist will die a glorious death to take care of the 10-4 on the table. But again, we're still only at 7 play points, and they can play whatever they want now that I have 10 play points. Ramp. Very dangerous. But like I said, we've been holding on to our Wizardess of Oz, and we're trying to empty out our hand a little bit, so we can take maximum value out of that one. And of course, piling on our Earth Rites, that way Magic Illusionist will keep on popping back up. They, meanwhile, keep on healing and keep on drawing. And that's the problem when going against Dragoncraft and even Havencraft. Their heals can make it difficult to apply the amount of burn we need to win. Doesn't mean we're not going to try, though. And they still got that last evolve point, which I'm going to try and draw out of them here. That's right. Instead of trading in with my my Wizardess, I'm going to leave it there as a nice big target. That way maybe they'll play someone and evolve it, which is going to happen with Lucifer here. A lot of legendaries in this guy's deck. Wallet Warrior and Wallet Dragon, still a thing. But we're in a pretty good place, all things considered. We got our Halo Golem here. Just gonna plop on down soon. Any second now. Gotta get that Earth Rite on the table, that way it actually procs. There we go. And as you can see, our 4-3 stealth over there. It's a nice investment for the next turn if you play that with an Earth Rite. And I'm feeling pretty good because I got a Wizardess of Oz and a pretty much empty hand here. Double ward. As you can see, they're hoping to stay alive with that, but with Dance of Death, I already have lethal between that and the board. So that's going to do 2 damage, and the rest we need is sitting on the table. That's the first game. As you can see, you could strike a nice balance between burn and control with this deck, which is fun. Alright, let's dive into the second matchup, which was against Blood. Ah, Vania, such a good hero portrait. And of course, I love fake old man voice here. He's great. Erasmus? I can never pronounce his name. Erasmus. There we go. Great. Great hero portrait. Both in English and Japanese. I love people doing fake old man voices. Alright, we got a decent curve here. I would have preferred having Witch's Cauldron as a 1-drop, but having a 2-drop in the form of Dwarf Alchemist here, still good. So they played Tove. We already know what's going on now. It's going to be a neutral Blood deck, so we want to make sure they don't have a board. I'm immediately switching from playing this as a burn deck to playing it as straight control. Because if they have board presence, that means they have a whole bunch of targets for Alice, Wonderland Explorer, and Actress. Basically a lot of buffing that we don't want to let them do. As if confirming what I said, double Actress. They think they're just fine. They're not. We're gonna go ahead and get rid of 1. Heal back up to 20. And then Levi will take care of the other. I bet they were feeling real good right up until now, because double Actress, they thought, there's no way they can get rid of both. I'll have an evolved target next turn. Don't let it happen. And here's what we were really worried about. A turn 5 Baphomet, which means they now have... They have Abyss in their hand. It's a 100% guarantee. Well, I guess it's only a 99 guarantee. Who knows, right? But we all know. We all know what they're running in their deck. Come on. If you're playing against Blood, and they play Baphomet, they're doing it so they can get Abyss. So, that's bad, obviously. But there's not much we could do about it right now. So we just, put a nice sticky minion. Oh, there it is! Spawn of the Abyss! Shocker. So obviously they want to wait so they can get maximum value out of the next turn. What we're going to do is we're going to push a lot of damage on board. That way they have no choice but to trade. No going face now. They have to go into our Magic Illusionist. They are too low on health to do otherwise. Oh god! They went straight to face! Look at that! That was a terrible decision on their part, because now we just win. Instead of going with Dance of Death, I decided to go for the shameful, shameful rat victory here. There it is. And that's Mutagenic Bolt against Spawn of the Abyss. Obviously you want to do that while it's still hidden, not while it's on the board like this, but, you know, works either way. Alright, let's jump into our third matchup, which is against Sword. Don't remember what happened in this matchup. Usually I vet these playthroughs, but I'm on a bit of a timeline for today, so I didn't have a chance. But that's fine. It's more exciting this way. I'm going mostly off memory, and I'm just as excited and surprised as you when certain things happen. So if it's Sword, you can kind of assume it's going to be a neutral Sword variant. It's very popular right now. And it is, because we got a Goblin. If it wasn't going to be neutral, this Goblin would be replaced probably by Quick Blader. Oh, that's right. This is actually a really interesting matchup. They do a lot of damage really fast just using standard boosts, buffs on their first minion here. This 1-1 goes from... Sorry, this 1-2 goes from 1-2 all the way to a 5-6, much faster than I could deal with. I'm trying to respond to this by dumping bodies on the table. Obviously, just trading in would be pointless at this point. And my god, it gets even bigger. We're already down to 8, and it's only turn 4. Thankfully, Master Mage means we can get rid of it. And the risk you run when being so aggressive, as you're about to find out, is you run out of steam real quick. So this guy was a major threat. They were hoping I couldn't get rid of it. Obviously I could. Once you get to the evolve points, you could usually get rid of a threat on the table. And that's going to leave them in a bad position, because without that target debuff, they're going to run out of steam. Council of Card Knights refills the tank a little bit, and they're just going to really plink away. They're trying to kill me as fast as possible. A very aggressive deck. So we're switching from burn to control, trying to stabilize on board here. Which, thanks to Master Mage, is sitting in my hand. I'm not too worried. And obviously, our old Levi makes for a good double trade. Not much we could do about that 1-1. I did trade into it, that way if he evolves, it stays a 3-3. If it was a 3-5, Master Mage wouldn't be able to get rid of it. And a 2-2. They're out of evolve points, so they can't take full advantage of it. But Master Mage takes care of the problem. There we go. And I'm going to pile on as much damage as quickly as I can, put them also at 2. And as long as they don't have a rush, we're gonna be okay. They don't. This is one of those, here's what I have in my hand, don't you feel bad for me situations? I do that all the time too. That was a short one. We have time for one more. Alright, game 4, and for variety's sake, it'll be Havencraft. You can see all kinds of matchups now. I remember nothing about this match. All I remember is this is right before I had to enter the trials for ranking up, which I failed. Stupid, super aggressive neutral decks. What are you gonna do, right? I do like that this game is so friendly for new players that they could sit down and make a pretty effective deck for cheap or free pretty quick. I just don't like it when it crushes me. But it's my own choice. I like playing weirdo decks. So pretty standard so far. I was forced to put out Levi on turn 2 because I had no other turn 2 plays, which always feels bad. You want to play him when you have an evolution point so you can get max value out of it. You want to get that Crimson Sorcery. And of course the trade happens. There's no way he was going to let him stay on the table. And once I saw that all these neutral cards were hitting the table, I decided to play this more as a control deck than a burn deck, because if I try and burn and they have Alice, we are going to lose. They're going to get too much damage too fast, and I won't be able to burn their face fast enough. So control is the way to go today. I love that this deck is versatile enough to be a burn deck or a control deck, depending on how you choose to play. All of the spells and Earth Rites that are able to target both face and minions makes for a fairly versatile deck. And there it is, Alice Wonderland Explorer. That's why we were clearing the board as aggressively as we were. We don't want to give them as many targets, otherwise there's no way we can keep up. Especially when you're going second and you only have those 2 evolution points. Thankfully, with double Mutagenic Bolt in hand, I could have some fun here. Because you figure they're not going to expect you to have both in your hand, and we're just going to try and bait them into flooding the board with as many minions as they can, which at most will be 4, probably just 2. But they have no choice but to either trade or face losing next turn, so it's a good way to also bait out evolves. Getting those 2 extra damage from the rats hitting both faces. And he's back! Magic Illusionist, you can't get rid of him. And again, going into another Mutagenic Bolt, and really putting pressure on them, because at this point I feel confident that I can swap from a control deck to another aggressive burn experience. So let me just pause for 1 second here. The best part about these stupid rats is that they are not neutral. They count as Runecraft, so they can't buff them using all of the buff cards they have that are specific for neutral cards. It's one of the unspoken benefits of Mutagenic Bolt. Alright, let's keep going here. They're just going to clear the board. I didn't have any more sigils, so I couldn't bring back my Magic Illusionist, but that's fine. Thanks to our Dwarf Alchemist here, we could toss an Earth Rite on the table, and another Mage of Nightfall. An investment for the future, giving us lethal on board that can't be targeted. So unless they have another decree, they just have a Grimnir. It always feels bad to be forced to play Grimnir on turn 8 or 9 and not on turn 10, where you always want to be playing him. But easy peasy, we have double Demonic Strike. Don't even have to worry about Grimnir. Alright, that was the Wizardess of Burn. This is just my version of it. There are lots of different versions that you can put together, and you can find online if you just browse around the various forums that are into Shadowverse. You'll find all different variants on this deck. Some people like more spells. A few of those have actually caught my eye. I'm thinking about switching this up a little bit and putting a few more different spells in here. Specifically, of course I'm going to forget the name of that spell. For the sake of giving you a good idea of what I'm talking about, let's pop into my Daria deck here so I can get the name of that spell for you. Piercing Rune. Piercing Rune would be a good addition to it because it doesn't have spell boost, which means if we combo this with our Wizardess, it's going to be a 1-cost spell that's going to do 2 damage to a minion and a face. And even if you don't combo with that, if you have it in your hand and you evolve, the cost will go down to 2. So it's a very versatile card. It's nice to have. So you'll find variants that have more spells like that in there. You'll have variants that have less spells. Some are much more focused on Professor of Taboos. They have 3 in there, and they're trying to pump up the board full of all these zombies. And that's one of the nice... Again, I can't sing enough praise for Shadowverse and the fact that there's so many variants that work for these decks. There are a lot of card games where the meta is so rigid, where if you're not running the deck list exactly as everyone else, then you're going to lose. Whereas Shadowverse, it's versatile. You could swap out certain cards, you could do it completely differently, or you can stick with the deck list. And I love that. I love how much variety there is. I love that I barely ever play against the same decks, even though you're always going to see some of the same cards. Like, you're always going to see Alice, Wonderland Explorer, you're going to see Spawn of the Abyss if you're playing against Blood. But at the very least, the other parts of the deck are usually a little bit different. Like, I've seen completely neutral Blood decks that also have Spawn, and I've also seen more traditional mid-range mid-range Blood or aggro Blood that also have Spawn. And so on and so forth. I actually ran into a really neat Dragoncraft deck today that was almost entirely built around discard and draw mechanics. And they killed me by discarding friggin' 7 cards from their hand and just dealing 7 damage to my face and the board. It was pretty neat. It made me want to try out that deck. It's rare in other card games to sit down and be like, oh wow, I want to try that deck, whereas that happens every day with Shadowverse. And it might be that I'm a lowly B3 going on to A rank player, so I'm not at the tippy top. The tippy top, I imagine the meta is a little bit more rigid, but for the average player who's working their way up, that's what you're going to see is more variety, and I like that. So as always, check the description if you want to get the deck code for this, or just see the deck list. And I'll see you next time. Expect more Shadowcraft. Good God! Expect more Shadowverse videos in the future, because I'm really enjoying putting these together, and it means I get to play more of the game, and I love playing the game. So it's win-win. Anyway, see you later. Bye-bye.